Chris Darwall is NewsNation's political editor and host of The Hill Sunday. Kurt Volker is the former U.S. ambassador to NATO. And retired Vice Admiral Robert Harward is the former Deputy Commander of CENTCOM. He grew up in Iran and is now a member of the Iran Project with the Jewish Institute for National Security of America. It is great to have all of you here. All right, Chris, I'm going to start with you because I'm starting with the politics of all this. Some of the harshest reaction to this deal is coming from President Trump's own party. We just heard Republican Senator Bill Cassidy. He's posting today that Reagan is rolling over in his grave. It's the worst foreign policy blunder in decades. The Wall Street Journal editorial board called it a, quote, capitulation and a, quote, colossal mistake. Conservative activist Eric Erickson has said Trump has surrendered to Iran. What do you make of this reaction, and especially all these congressional Republicans saying this is Vance's fault?
Well, the president's decision to pre-scapegoat the vice president on this is something notable. We talked a long time ago about how Joe Biden put Kamala Harris in charge. Remember when Joe Biden said, Kamala, you're in charge of the border. And
good luck to you.
Yeah, and what you do with a vice president where there's friction, or maybe in the case of J.D. Vance, there's been leaking, and Vance distancing himself from the war, that Trump, once he realized that he was stuck, that the Iranians had him, that why not make Vance go eat the frog, right? If you're going to have to belly crawl out of this thing, why not hang it on Vance, not put it on yourself?
But Vance didn't come up with this deal on his own. President Trump came up with this deal, and President Trump just moments ago signed off on this deal.
I suspect that depending on how this deal goes, the president will either take ownership of it and say that it was his idea, or, much as we've already heard him do about starting the war itself, say that it was other people's fault. Just the one thing to keep in mind always when you're listening to the president, he is always selling, right? He is always selling. It is always the best case scenario. It is always the greatest deal ever. It is always the whatever. So you have to do a lot of reading between the lines. But basically, if you listen to all that the president had to say today and yesterday, it's somebody else's fault, maybe Israel, that this happened the way that it happened and that it failed, and that J.D. Vance will be in charge. This will be J.D. Vance's responsibility if this goes sideways. So I think many a truth is said in jest.
Ambassador, President Trump said this afternoon that the deal is a good one, but because he didn't want to see, quote, an economic catastrophe if the war continued. It sounds like he is saying that Iran's strategy of closing the Strait of Hormuz in essence worked.
Right. So that's the other side of this. So we can all look at the 14 points and say, Iran won on every single one of these points. This is not a deal that advances anything. And in fact, the war itself didn't advance anything. So we can say that. But having started this war and seen the impact on the global economy, on oil prices, on gasoline prices, on inflation, one good piece of advice is if you're in a hole, stop digging. And I think that's what President Trump decided he had to do, was just stop this. Now he's trying to sell it, as our previous speaker just said. He's trying to sell it as some kind of success. But you have to judge, would it have been better to continue as we were, or is it better to end it? Or the third option would have been go all the way. I mean, make sure we get rid of this Iranian regime. I think a lot of people believe that once you start a war like this, you have to finish it. But if he's not willing to do that, stopping digging may be the best outcome. But it is certainly not a good one, and it's certainly not the end either. I think this is just a framework. There's going to be a lot of criticism of this, and Trump is perfectly capable of pivoting again.
Admiral, Iran in this memorandum of understanding, agrees to open the strait without tolls for only, it actually says, the text, only 60 days. The agreement goes on to give Iran the right to manage the strait after that 60 days. And Iran has already made very clear that it plans going forward to charge, quote unquote, fees for any tankers and ships to pass through.
Again, I don't think this is fully played out yet. The good news is the straits will be open very soon, allowing all those ships that have been trapped inside the Gulf to exit and to get the world economy back on a footing for at least a few weeks, if not longer. If there are any problems during that or the negotiations, I think the president can return very quickly to the period we are. So he wanted to at least get that first doors going, the first ships out, the guys who have been held hostage in the Gulf. Now, he's going to give up some of his most leverage here by allowing the Iranians to sell some oil, which is going to be several $100 million a day. So that's going to really take out his leverage. But if it can reset the world economy, he can come back to that blockade when he sees the negotiations going south, which I anticipate will happen, because they're asking things no one would ever agree to. You can't own the straits. Those are international waterways. You can't charge a toll from that. No one's going to accept that. You can't continue to have ballistic missiles and drones. You can't continue to fund Hezbollah and threaten Israel. So I'll be surprised if the Iranians agree to that and we don't return to a blockade. And the price of giving the world to get, hey, you got your ships out,
right,
you know this is coming. They can prepare for it this time.
But, Admiral, this MOU says absolutely nothing about Iran's ballistic missiles or Iran's support and funding of terrorist groups.
Exactly. That's why I think at the end of the day, this all needs to go back to Congress under their agreements with Iran and the agreements they had for a review of the Iran nuclear agreement. So that, I think all those issues will come up in these negotiations over the next 60 days with congressional involvement, I hope.
Chris, Iran gets a lot of money in this deal, access to a $300 billion with a B dollar reconstruction fund, all economic sanctions lifted, the immediate ability to start selling oil like tomorrow or Friday once the I don't know if the Geneva signing ceremony happens or not. And the United States is agreeing upon signing to unfreeze some of the $100 billion in frozen Iranian assets. This is huge. President Trump said today, quote, "It's their money. At some point we're going to have to give it back." But President Trump was harshly critical of President Obama for returning just $1.7 billion of Iranian funds.
It may be that there is some cynicism at work here, Elizabeth. We're looking into it, but there may be some cynicism at work. I want to add to what the Admiral said because it's so right. If the president had done this the right way, if he had gone to Congress to begin with, if he had made the case to the American people, remember he gave his State of the Union address just a couple of days before the bombing began. He had an opportunity to say to the American people, this is going to be hard. This is going to be expensive. It's going to be difficult, but we need to do it, and here's why. And he could have said to Congress, come with me on this journey, and he could have gotten congressional buy-in. But instead what happened was he tried to do it on the cheap, and he tried to do it on the sly and said, we're going to do a Venezuela, we're going to pop in, we're going to pop out, we're going to have a new guy, they're going to do whatever we want. And what they found out was that the intensity of these Shia radical Islamists in Iran is real. They aren't a hollowed out petro state run by narco terrorists in South America. These people, some of these people really mean what they say.
They're fanatics.
And that's right. And he didn't have Congress with him, and he didn't have the American people with him. So as the Iranians strangled the global energy supply and the president watched his numbers and Republican numbers for midterm crater as gas prices went up, he cried uncle. And I think it's very true. When you're in a hole, stop digging. I think if they weren't going to go all the way, the sooner the better to get out politically.
Ambassador, with all this money possibly flowing into Iran, I mean, some of it we know immediately will as they sell their oil, like starting Friday of this week. Is this a reward to Iran?
Well, I have to say the money part of this is really mystifying. I can see an end to hostilities and further negotiations. But to give Iran access to hundreds of billions of dollars, that is money that's going to strengthen the regime, increase repression. They will rebuild military capabilities that have been damaged, and they will be resupplying Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas. This is really hard to understand why that's part of the deal, unless President Trump was so concerned about the impacts on the global economy and oil prices.
He said he was afraid there would be an economic catastrophe.
Yeah. If that's his judgment, then it really calls into question the whole premise of what we're doing here, and it raises the issue of why we're not going all the way then, because this is going to be empowering and strengthening the regime as we go forward into this negotiating process.
Yeah, well, we shall see. As we have emphasized, this kicks off 60 days of negotiations. Things could change, but it is without having finally gotten to see this agreement today for the first time after talking about it all week. Iran gets money, and not a small amount, and right away. Ambassador Kurt Volker, Vice Admiral John Harward, and Chris Starwell, thank you all three so much for your incredibly insightful analysis. Appreciate it.